all that down, let's get on to the real stuff here, shall we? We're going to start off with this. You know, for a guy that doesn't even like the movie Kpop Demon Hunter all that much, I do talk a lot about it because I'm amazed by a couple of things. Number one, I am obsessed with the music, and I have to fully admit I love the music of the movie. I really do. I do catch myself when I'm scrolling through YouTube, stopping off and watching one of the several music videos every now and again. Still, I love the music in it. I do. But the second thing is I'm fascinated by the success of the film and how much it has become just this like huge pop cultural, you know, touchstone that is really that everybody's now seen and everybody talks about. And even though I don't actually think the movie's all that good, but still, there are a lot of people who do and a lot of people who are loving it. Now, Sony is the studio behind it. Listen, Sony Animation has been killing it, guys. Between this movie, the Spider-Verse movies, Mitchell's versus the Machines, which was way good and way under, like not enough people have seen it. It's really good. Sony Animation has been kind of killing it. So you'd think that, woo, big windfall for Sony. Well, here's the catch. You may have seen a headline going around that Sony has only made $20 million on Kpop Demon Hunter. Now, the reports you guys see going around, a number of them are not quite accurate because a number of the stories I've read, and even some of the bigger trades, like not the Hollywood Reporter and Variety, but some of the bigger fan sites, have been misrepresenting what's been going on, saying that Sony made the movie and then just sold it to Netflix for $20 million. That's not what happened. Okay, just to be clear, I even saw some people in our own live chat today saying that. That is not what happened. Here's what happened with Kpop Demon Hunters. Sony had this movie that they were going to make, and they decided it probably wasn't something that might succeed in theaters. Listen, to be honest, nobody thought Kpop Demon Hunters was going to be this big. Absolutely nobody in the world thought it was going to be this big. So they did get an offer to partner up with Netflix. Now, here's what most people think. Most people think that Sony made the movie and then shopped it around and sold it. They did not. Actually, Netflix paid for the vast majority of the production of the film. Sony made it, but Netflix paid the bill. At least the vast majority of it.
Yeah, Netflix just bought the idea from Sony, it says here. Yeah,
and Sony produced it. They made it. But Netflix paid all the bills, at least the vast majority of them. This comes to us from the folks over at Slasho. I'm going to read this a little bit at length because I think it's important to understand the information here. On the one hand, Sony Pictures should be happy because they have arguably the biggest hit movie of the summer on their hands. No, we're not talking about Lilo and Stitch or even Superman. We're talking about Kpop Demon Hunters, which has been tearing it up on Netflix streaming charts. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. Tearing it up on Netflix streaming charts for weeks. On the other hand, as mentioned, all of his success is falling on Netflix's shoulders, with Sony getting a surprisingly small fee, relatively speaking, for generating such a massive hit. According to Puck News, that's Matt Bellani's outlet, even though director Maggie Kang and Chris Applehans, I hope I'm saying that right, Kpop Demon Hunters originated at Sony Pictures as an original idea from the studio, they are getting just $20 million with Netflix under no obligation to pay any additional royalties. Thanks to the deal between the studio and the streamer, Netflix shoulders the lion's share of the $100 million production budget. Sony got cold feet and feared the big bet might not pay off if they were to have released it in theaters. Okay. I get that everybody's first reaction is, wow, Sony really screwed up. There's a couple things to keep in mind here. Hindsight is 2020. And I think, you know, what happens is when a production company 9 times out of 10 makes a deal like this, it ends up being a very wise deal. It ends up being very smart because Sony guaranteed that they were going to make profit on this project. You know, if they put it out in theaters and all that kind of stuff, no, they might lose money. Here, they guaranteed they got a profit. And again, I need to reemphasize this. Nobody in the world thought Kpop Demon Hunters was going to be this big. Nobody did.
Well, Netflix did.
Well, Netflix throws money around at
Yeah.
a lot of things
No, they
that
do,
don't end up being
But they
big.
liked the idea.
Yes. And
But they were
willing,
never going to put it in theaters.
No, and they were never going to put it in theaters, but they stepped in and paid most of it. So you got to understand, Sony, on an untested, unproven, questionable project, made a deal that guaranteed them $20 million on like
Free money.
By the way, from what I understand, that's not just $20 million and then you got to minus whatever money they put in the production.
No.
From my understanding, it's $20 million after their expenses have been
Right.
covered. It was a profitable movie for them. Also want to remind you guys, to Rob's point, Netflix has put up a lot of money on a lot of projects
Yeah.
that have done nothing. What's the recent Russo brothers movie they
Electric
did?
State.
Electric State is a great example of that. They put up all this money,
$300 million.
did nothing for them. Also, I want to point this out. How much money do you think Netflix has made with K-pop? Let me ask you this question. If you watch Kpop Demon Hunters, how much money did you pay to watch it? Oh, nothing?
Yeah.
Because you already were a subscriber to Netflix? Here's the other question. To some people who may say, well, yeah, but now Netflix has that ad-supported level. True. And I think that's going to pay off for Netflix big time down the road. It is. Do you know, according to a report in Reuters, only about 1 out of every 3 people who are on Netflix actually have the ad-supported tier. It's a growing number. It is. And like I said, I think that's going to pay off for Netflix a lot down the road for people dumb enough to just use the ad-supported tier. But I don't understand why you would pay money for a service and accept having ads.
Also,
Anyway,
it's a lower tier of
you get lower streaming quality. You
Yeah.
get fewer options.
You don't get
Anyway,
4K.
that's another discussion for another time. But all that is to say that it is a little bit surprising to see what's Sony. Now, remember, Sony gets first dibs on any sequels, whatever. They will be the production company unless they refuse to do it. And they'll get to renegotiate with each individual film, but they'll never make another penny off this original big hit. And you know how things go. Sometimes you have one big hit movie and you think it's going to be a franchise, and then you do the next one and nothing comes out of it. So maybe this will be it for them. So I understand it's totally shocking to see the number. I get it. And they did miss out on this one. But Rob, 8, 9 times out of 10, these are a pretty wise hedging of your bets. It guaranteed they made profit. It is just funny to see this. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. What a great time to be a sports fan. Basketball playoffs are on. Hockey playoffs are on. It is the perfect time to jump into the action with PrizePicks, the easiest and most fun way to turn your sports knowledge into real winnings. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made really simple. Just pick more or less on a few player projections, like points, assists, goals, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. For example, this week I've got Jalen Brunson for more than 24.5 points, or Jason Tatum for more than 6.5 rebounds. I love how fast and easy it is to lock in a lineup in just under a minute. Plus, they've got a couple of weekly features, like, for example, Flex Friday. If your lineup doesn't win, you get your net losses back in promo funds. And every Tuesday, check out Taco Tuesday for discounted player projections up to 25% off. So download the app today and use the code Campea to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Campea to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. But Rob, you know, we were talking the other day, I think we're going to have to do a conversation sometime this week or next week about, hey, is Sony becoming the major player in the world of animation right now? Again, you look at things like the Spider-Verse films, K-pop, things like that. How big of a deal is this for Sony Animation? How big of a player are they becoming here? And is there anything about this story about the money they got or didn't get that really stands out to you?
I mean, I have questions in the sense that they say Sony got cold feet and feared the big bet might not pay off. So somebody brought the project, if the directors came up with the project, came to Sony and said, look, we have this thing. Maybe Sony developed it internally with the directors, and they decided for whatever reason not to move forward. And I can understand Kpop Demon Hunters. You know, it's one thing, like if they were going to make it a big theatrical movie, that's a big leap.
Huge leap.
That's a big leap for people at Sony to be like, what? Like,
And alone covering the $100 million production cost.
Right.
So they would be sinking all that money.
Yeah, and
into
they're
it.
wondering, that's a lot of money. So they have this project that they developed internally that they decided they didn't want to take a bet on. Netflix comes along and says, look, animation does well for us. I mean, I worked on, Dota Dragon's Blood, Ashley's series. I edited 3 seasons of that. Arcane. They've got all these things out that are doing well. Demon Slayer is a huge.
By the way, was Sony behind the Arcane series?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure.
But,
I don't know. I honestly.
But yeah, but I'm just saying that these are now animated franchises that are doing very, very well, and I would say that this is a little out there. If you're not a K-pop fan, you don't know BTS, you don't know Blackpink, you don't know a number of these bands. It's a big ask to spend $100 million. Netflix is like, well, we do well with this kind of animation. We'll give you $100 million. We'll make it, and we'll give you $20 million for the idea or whatever. That's natural, totally normal thing. What's interesting though is that this is the point where Sony could have said, we would like a theatrical window. If you're going to make it, we're going to partner up. You're going to buy our idea. We're going to look at it and either get a right of first refusal to put it in theaters, or we're going to put it in theaters for you. It'll be a Netflix co-production and Sony will release it. They could have made that deal, but they just didn't have faith. If they were going to make that deal, they probably would have made the movie themselves in the first place, but they could have made some kind of a theatrical. They just went their merry way. What's really interesting about this is the fact that, as you just pointed out, this movie it's closing in on 200 million views.
It's about 184 right now, I think is the number. Yeah.
They made no money on those views. Now they'll make money on ancillary things. Maybe they'll merchandise the hell out of it. Obviously, the soundtrack album is burning up the charts. I don't know how much money they're making from that. But
it is burning up the charts. I mean,
yeah,
they got to be making some money on that.
Totally. But I mean, a million or a billion Spotify streams pay at 20 cents. Who knows? But the point is that this could have been, even if Netflix had decided to release it, if it became, I mean, the thing that Netflix has going for it that theatrical releases don't have is immediately any kid in the world that subscribes to Netflix, a thing that comes up that says Kpop Demon Hunters, oh, I'll watch that. So they have immediate access to all of these eyeballs that are just looking to watch animation, which is a theatrical release of a movie like this. You would have had to market the hell out of it. So that audience that's right there clicking on Netflix, oh, I want to watch that, will even know it's out there. Because Kpop Demon Hunters is not something that audience would even be looking for as coming out in theaters. So even if it was coming out with a good marketing budget, your core audience might not have known it was coming. So I don't think a movie like this would have necessarily been theatrically viable because no one knew it. But in a week, as you saw on Netflix, the whole audience exploded for this. They all knew it was there, and they're watching it over and over and over again. So it's a phenomenon. The question is, what are they going to do with it now? If they make a second one, does it go theatrical? Does Sony say, oh, we've got 200 million views, we're going to put it out theatrical with a big marketing budget?
They don't have the right to do that. Netflix controls the property now.
Right, they gave it all away. But maybe they could make some deal, or maybe there's a right of first refusal on a sequel. I don't know what the deal looks like. But I think this is an example of, it's both what Netflix wants, but it's also people are losing out. But the problem is it's speculative. We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
The big thing to me and all this is, I don't know how well it would have done in theaters.
I don't either. I don't think it would.
But I do know this. I do believe it would have had an even bigger launch on streaming afterwards had it had a theatrical release first. It would have it might have been one of those films that just blew up in theaters and made them $600-700 million, or maybe $200 or $300 million or whatever. But then with the backing of a global ad campaign, then it dropped on Netflix. I think it would have been even bigger on streaming than it is now.
I totally agree with you. And the thing is, what's fascinating, and I've never seen a study on this, when something that becomes phenomenal, whether it's like Suits, where 9 seasons of Suits go up and becomes a #1 streaming thing, once it comes on your Netflix, whatever, if it's in your analytics and it pops up, immediately the globe, the world has access to this, like simultaneously. And friends, oh my God, I just watched, you have to watch Kpop Demon Hunters, let's watch it together, blah, blah, blah. And things, it can happen immediately. Like if something goes up, I mean, with theatrical, people have to know it came out in the theaters. There's a lot of movies that come out, people don't even know they came out because they haven't seen the marketing. But with Netflix, it's its own marketing. It goes up, it's available, people click and watch. What is the difference between something like that as opposed to something theatrical that does very well can you compare and contrast that? Because it would tell us a lot about if streaming is a viable business.
And well, I mean, Netflix has proven they're making a lot of money, but it's taken a long time for them to get to that point.
Right, but they don't make dollars off each view.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? It is funny when you look at how big of a global phenomenon Kpop Demon Hunters come that Sony got $20 million out of it. It's actually not that uncommon, but it is kind of striking to hear that. Whatever you guys think about all this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.